Hi, Andrew Hodges here. I am the author of the book Mastering Chaos, A Musician's Guide. I am incredibly excited to share this video with you. I do realise that it sounds a bit complicated, but I think the video does a really brilliant job of visualising some pretty complex ideas. My research has taken me into the realms of trying to perceive patterns in complexity. While one single event you might perceive as being apparently random, once you start to see the patterns in the chaos, these apparently random events start to become much more predictable. I realise that this concept provides the perfect analogy for understanding the complexity of human behaviour, which is exactly what I explore in my book Mastering Chaos, A Musician's Guide. My Musician's Way framework focuses on finding order and meaning within life's chaos. I'm genuinely proud of this video because it shows how you can use the predictable nature hidden in the randomness of our lives to help you navigate and master chaos. So here it is.
Ever feel like you're just drowning in chaos? You know, the noise of modern life? Well, what if I told you there's a way to get a handle on it all, and the secret comes from somewhere you'd probably never expect?
So let's kick things off with this quote from Albert Camus. He just hits the nail on the head, doesn't he? It's about that constant battle inside all of us. You know, your head versus your heart. What your brain logically tells you and what your gut is screaming is the real truth.
And that right there, that's the big question, isn't it? In this age of absolute chaos, with all the noise and fake news and things changing every 5 minutes, how in the world are we supposed to know what's true? What can you actually hang your hat on?
Okay, so before we get to the answer, we've got to really define the problem. Let's talk about what this feeling of being completely overwhelmed by 21st century life actually is.
I mean, look at this. This is basically a checklist for modern anxiety, right? It feels like a perfect storm. Technology's moving at light speed. There's always some new crisis happening somewhere in the world, and we are just buried under this mountain of information, and a lot of it is just junk. So yeah, no wonder it feels like we're all just trying to keep our heads above water.
So what's the answer? Where do we even start? Well, it comes from a place you're probably not expecting. Music. Yeah, that's right. It turns out musicians have this secret weapon for dealing with chaos.
And this whole idea, this breakthrough, came to the author, Andrew Hodges, at a really intense moment. He's in the middle of this high-stakes international negotiation. I mean, we're talking a world away from his other life as a musician, or so it seemed at the time.
Think about it. On one hand, you've got this super formal business meeting, all about rules, money, getting things down on paper. On the other hand, you've got musicians just jamming, creating something beautiful out of thin air, no script. You'd think they're polar opposites, right? But that's when Hodges had this aha moment. He saw something amazing. He realized that underneath it all, they were doing the exact same thing. Seriously, to get a good outcome, both the suits in the boardroom and the musicians on stage had to do the same things. They had to really listen, build trust, be flexible, stick to a basic framework, and, this is a big one, feel safe enough to push back and challenge each other. And that's the core idea. The skills you need to make incredible music are the same skills you need to navigate chaos in life. So, from that one single insight, this whole practical framework was born. It's a way to understand basically any human interaction, and it's built around 4 key states of action. And it's surprisingly simple, really. It all boils down to 2 axes. The first is that classic tug-of-war between reason and emotion, head versus heart again. The second is all about how we interact. Are things super structured, by the book, or are they more spontaneous and informal, just going with the flow?
Now, here's where it gets really cool. You put those 2 axes together, and you get this, a map of how we interact. And what's wild is that each of these 4 quadrants lines up perfectly with a different kind of music. So let's actually dive in and see what each one feels like.
All right, first up, we have the structured state. This is all about reason and form. Think classical music, like Mozart or Bach. Everything is orderly, follows clear rules, and the goal is perfect balance. You know this state. It's when you're following a recipe or assembling IKEA furniture, hopefully with the instructions.
Okay, now let's take that structure and inject a whole lot of emotion. Boom, you're in the passionate state. This is your romantic era music. Think Beethoven.
The rules are still kind of there in the background, but they're being bent and stretched to express these huge, personal feelings. It's all about drama and intensity within that formal world. Next up is the challenging state. Here, we're moving over to the informal side of things, but we're still using our heads. The perfect example? Jazz. There's a structure, for sure, a chord progression, but the soul of jazz is about improvisation, bending the rules, and speaking your mind. This is where real innovation happens, where you can challenge the status quo.
And last but not least, the spontaneous state. This is where we go full-on informal and emotional. Think of a totally free-form jam session. The rulebook is out the window. It's all about raw, in-the-moment creativity. Ideas just bubble up from the interaction. This is the space where genuine, unexpected discoveries are made. Okay, so what? Why is knowing about these 4 states such a big deal? Because when you learn how to move between them, you're not just becoming a better musician, you're unlocking what the author calls your hidden superpowers. And these aren't just any skills, they're basically the building blocks of emotional intelligence. First, you get incredibly good at deep listening. I don't just mean hearing sounds, I mean understanding what's going on. Then you become super adaptable, ready to pivot when something unexpected happens. You also get this knack for seeing the big picture, for finding the signal in all the noise. And maybe most importantly, you get a gut-level feel for balancing reason and emotion, which helps you make way better decisions.
And here's the absolute key takeaway. This stuff isn't just for musicians. These are essential human skills, period. This is the stuff that makes someone a great leader. It's what makes you a creative problem solver. It's what makes you a resilient person who can actually thrive, not just survive, in this crazy, complex world. Which brings us to one last, really powerful idea. If these are the skills for leadership, well, then maybe we need to completely rethink what a leader even is. You know, we usually think of a leader as someone with a fancy title on a business card, but the truth is we're all leading and following all the time. You might be the leader on a big project at work, but that same weekend, you're happy to let your friend take the lead on planning a hike. We all have it in us to guide and influence things, no matter who we are. So what's the point of all this? What's the endgame? It's summed up beautifully in this one line. We play not to win, but to continue to play. The goal isn't about scoring a quick victory and then walking away.
It's a huge mindset shift, isn't it? It moves us away from that zero-sum, I win, you lose way of thinking. Instead, it's about building something that lasts, about long-term collaboration. And let's be honest, that's the only way we're ever going to solve the really big, messy problems we're facing. We have to do it together.
So I'll leave you with this final thought. Think of your life as one big improvisation. It's a performance that's happening right now in real time. So, knowing what you know now about these 4 different states, the structured, the passionate, the challenging, and the spontaneous, what kind of music are you going to make?